ですね。はい。
ミーティングとか
こういうね。
And until then, I had never been to any kind of Christian meetings whatsoever.
Or invited to.
Or invited to.
Yeah. いや、ごめんなさい。それまではなかったことです。はい。その集会に、誘うだけではなくですね、彼らは僕と一緒に会ってくれるんですね。時間を作って僕と個人的に会ってくれるんですね。
And not only did they invite me to these Christian meetings, but outside of those times, they would hang out with me and really spend this quality time with me.
そういった時だから初めて自分からも一歩踏み出せるようになったんですね。
And because of the kindness they showed me, I was able to kind of take my first step as well.
そのうち彼らに、悩みを打ち明けるようになり、真剣な話もできるようになりました。
And after a while, I was able to really pour out my heart, all the struggles I'd be going through, and just really be totally honest with those guys.
ちょうどその時、周りも師匠とか周りの友達すごい仲良かった人たちも本当に変わってたんですね。いろいろ変わりたいという気持ちが彼らを通して本当にどんどん変わっていく姿を見て自分も変わりたいなと思ったわけです。
And it was a crazy time in high school where, well, it was a time for me and you guys talk about, but just a bunch of us were really getting to know God and we're starting to really be able to change. I'm going to switch to I. And then I really saw that and I felt, I want to change as well.
Yeah. そしてイエス・キリストと共に歩んでいる彼ら、友達、年上の友達も含めて彼らの人生を見るたびにですね、自分もあんな人生を歩みたいと思いました。
And I see other people's lives, people who are walking with Jesus and seeing, their lives, and I kind of felt, I want to be able to live my life as they do as well.
だからですね、変えられたい平安と喜びであふれる人生をくださいと祈りました。
And I prayed and said, I want to change and I want to live a life where my heart's full of peace.
はい。そうした時、初めて自分が神様の子供であるっていうことを信じることが心から本当に信じることができたんですね。
It was at that time when I was first able to believe with all my heart that I was a child of God.
今までいくら頑張っても日本人になれなかった自分、当たり前ですけど、それで普通の韓国人もなれなかった自分で、アメリカ人相手にすごいバカみたいに頑張ってたんですね、自分。それでまた弱くて汚い自分をそのまま受け入れ、愛してくださるということが本当に嬉しくしかありませんでした。
And all my life I had been trying to be, first I tried to be, Japanese and I really couldn't. And I was not a normal Korean guy as well. And I was brought to the States and I felt out of place there as well. And everywhere I went, I'd keep on striving and trying to work. But at this point I found out that God accepts me just as I am and loves me just as I am. And for me, that was such a amazing finding that I had at that time. And I was astonished.
そしてから、イエス様を受け入れて、本当にイエス様を通して新しく変えられました。
And then at that time I accepted Jesus, and from then on, Jesus has been changing me.
今までとは違う、少し違ったやっぱり違った意味で頑張れる力をくださったんですね。
And it's kind of, I had been striving for different things before, but I've been able to strive in a totally new way right now.
はい。で、だから高校生の終わりで後半、その前とは少し違う自分になりました。
And so, before graduating high school and then kind of near graduation and afterwards, there's a different me.
周りの人もそれを少しは感じてくれたかなと思います。
And I believe the people around me had kind of sensed that something was going on with me as well.
はい。そういった私なんですけど、自分なんですけど、ここで一つ聖書箇所に。
That's kind of who I am, but it was a Bible verse. 違うんですけど。あ、 Do whatever you want.
あれ？間違ったのをあげたのかな。いや、僕の読んでいいですか？でも英語はね、一緒かもしれない。多分1個前のやつ。違うかな？ごめんなさい。私の恵みはあなたに自分であるというのは、私の力は弱さを 弱さのうちに完全に現れるからであると言われたのです。ですから私はキリストの力を覆うためにむしろ大いに喜んで私の弱さを誇りましょうという箇所です。
The Japanese is wrong, but the English is right, I believe. But he said to me, "My grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness. Therefore, I will boast all the more gladly about my weaknesses, so that Christ's power may rest in me, on me."
まあ同じことですね。はいはいで外見ではすごい自信満々で強かった自分は中身は本当弱かったんですね、中身は。
And so on the outside, I would seem very self-confident and kind of really being sure of myself, but on the inside, I was very weak.
しかしそんな弱い自分をも神様、イエス様って言い方は私を愛された。
And even though I was weak, Jesus loved me.
それで本当にその愛を感じてから初めて自分の弱さに気づかされ、自然にそれを認めたくなっちゃうんですね、これは。
And it's interesting because ever since I've encountered that love, I've been able to realize and really admit my weaknesses and just keep on speaking about my weaknesses.
でなぜ認めるかっていうのは本当に変えられたいからで強くなりたいからっていうことです。
And the reason I speak about my weaknesses is because I want to be changed and because I want to overcome them.
はい、本当にそういった時、イエス様に言った時に本当に変えられたんですね。
It's when I was able to speak up and say that to Jesus that I was able to change.
そして、平安が与えられ喜びあふれました。
And then I was able to receive peace and be filled with joy.
はい、で私はこの箇所を読むたびにですね、クリスチャンとは何なんだろうっていうことを考えさせられます。そうですね。
And every time I read that passage, I kind of think, okay, what does it mean to be a Christian?
ちょっと真剣な話かもしれない。別にでもそんな、そしてこの箇所を読むときまた遠藤周作の沈黙っていう読んだ方はいるかもしれないですけど、出てくる吉次郎というキャラクターを思い出すんですね。吉次郎さん。
吉次郎。
わかんないですか
？So when I read, I'm reminded of a novel by a guy called Shusaku Endo. He's a Japanese Christian writer, and in his novel Silence, there's a character called Kichijo.
簡単に彼はですね、自分を守るために何度もある人、神父さんをね、裏切るんです。
And this guy Kichijo, what he does is to protect himself. He endangers this priest and always puts him on the line.
はい。しかし彼は毎回戻ってきて、自分は弱い人間だから許してほしいというふうに求め、そしてまたどうすれば強くなれるんだと神父に問いかけます。
But even though he does that, he always comes back to the priest and says, I'm weak and I want to change. What should I do? And that's how he approaches the priest. そんな彼を見て、誰こいつ臆病者だなっていう思う方もいるかもしれません。 And people might think, okay, this guy is such a wuss, he's, weak, and why is he, coming back to the priest and whining all the time?
自分もそう思ってしまうことがあります。
And oftentimes that's what I would think of him.
その神父さんも最後の最後までそう思ってたんですね。
And that's what the priest judged him at the very end.
でも僕が自分に正直になった時にですね、自分は吉郎っていうやつとあまり変わらないことに気づきます。
And I found out, but when I'm really honest to myself, I found out that I'm not very different from this character, Kichijo.
クリスチャンになった今でもつまずきます。
And even now that I've become a Christian, I fail often.
また、でも、しかし、そして自分一人では自分一人ではですね、生きていけない人生だと思っています。
But I also know that this life is not something that I can live on my own.
はい。